We're going to talk about the very strong oil leak you get from this feed line for the turbocharger on the 308 Peugeot remodelage. I'm not going to go into it exactly, but of course, you know, plumbing and heat shields. It all starts with the heat shields. I started the actual job down the bottom, where I'll go in a minute and show you. But basically, to get this line out, which is the first time I'm going to, actually no, I'm not going to take it out, I'll just leave it there right now. That line I'm changing, I've got it right here. The flare has failed. It's much like what nearly brought down the A380 QF35 Qantas. There you go. Look at it. It's like they've had kids sit there with a hammer and go punch, punch, punch. It's just awful. I know they sell a lot of them because when I first ordered it, it then got taken internally from Peugeot, and then another one, and then it took a week when they had them, and obviously they're selling them. They're not expensive, but overall this job at Peugeot would be well over $1,000. It would have to be. Now in some events you would remove this and change the gaskets, but remember here, when you see some stuff, just remember people are on a budget. We're working for free all the time as it is. I'm not pulling this thing off. I'll do what I have to. It will not leak. It wasn't leaking and half the bolts were loose, half the bolts were tight. They're just all over the place. I don't know why. Maybe there's been a warranty job in the past, or maybe that's just the way they make their cars. But you can see here, these are the banjos for the oil lines on the turbo, water lines. You want to remove them or it won't move. This is the one that was leaking. You've got here the bottom flange for the exhaust, and this is a bracket. This was the most problematic bolt. 15 minutes as it goes through a shield. Whenever the manufacturers do that, so there's a shield here, it catches the threads, and you can see that it's just there is Loctite on this too, but still it was just very, very, very difficult to take off with all the equipment I've got, and jamming a piece of wood in there to give me access. It was just no good at all. Not really acceptable to have such a strong leak, polluting the roads and endangering people's lives on the roads, as you know, this car has so few kilometers on it. Just to mention before we go under the car, these are a weak point. It was cracked before he came, and that's not taped. There's all sorts of stuff going on in there, and hopefully that's repaired. If not, I'll price it up. All delicate things, you know, on any car, like on the Mercs, you want to be removing this if you can without breaking it, because you'll break it. So, you know, everything in itself is great quality, I have to say, but it just doesn't work, does it? Never does. So you've got here, that's one of the outlets or inlets into the intercooler that was in my way. Over here, you want to bend this bracket over or loosen something to move it, and you know, this thing comes out of the top. So I'm not going to go into how to do the job, but it's quite common sense. Once I just show you something in a minute, it'll all become apparent, okay? So the job all started, for me, it was like, all right, well, I started the job here, so I loosened stuff and, you know, did what I can from here, knowing, you know, what I do here is the beginning. So you do want to, you know, protect the radiator and stuff. The car, it's got nicks in the radiator, maybe from before, but it's as if someone's done this job, just the way the torquing of the bolts was just erratic. Loose, tight, not loose, not tight, I don't know, just all over the place. You can see the strength of the leak. This car's already been cleaned. It was very, very strong, and it just got worse. He drove it, he took it away and thought about it, and yeah, it just got worse. So this is one of the last things you'll pull off, and through here goes that bracket I was showing you with the awful bolt. This will be like the second last thing you pull off. you pull this down and out from under the car. Whenever I've got anything under the car, it's come out from under the car. This piece of wood, albeit you don't need one so big, but that worked out great. So, you know, that went in here. Of course, you don't want to go snapping studs off, but that went in here and just brought this out for me and allowed me to get that bolt off there. And there you go. The oil line has dropped down slightly. This is where it lives, behind that shield, which is behind that bracket, which is behind the turbocharger. And the turbocharger held on by not only the bolts of the manifold, which, okay, with the bolt, before I go on, with the bolts of the manifold, so you've got the exhaust manifold, just say here, you, on the underside of it, you cannot see a thing. You just have to get really small tools, they're number 11, and you get those bolts that you can't see. Now, on the top left in that, you'll see the studs on the exhaust manifold, but not behind number 3, you won't. And then there are 3 bolts hidden there. So you take them out and, you know, working gently and covering all orifices and protecting the radiator and stuff, you basically